especially if you're on a mobile device. Um, just going to say right now, we are recording it. So if you feel it's more appropriate to keep your screen off, that's fine. But will be recording this session so that we can be people who couldn't join us live can view it later. So again, we're looking for that reaction button. Once you find the reaction button and push it, you should see a bunch of emojis. The two emojis that we're going to be worrying about today are going to be the thumbs up and the heart emoji. Those are going to be the two that we're going to use during the simulation to make choices. So if you can just react with one of those two, let's do a couple really simple questions to practice. First question, do you prefer coffee or tea? If you are a coffee devotee, give me a thumbs up. And if tea is more your speed, give me a heart.
Look at that.
Definitely a coffee crowd here this morning. So yeah. All right. How about the temperature of the drink next to you? What did you choose this morning? We had that nice weather yesterday that made us think of spring and summer. If you still went with a hot drink this morning, give me a thumbs up. And if you went with a cold one, give me a heart. Just taking care of a technical issue right here.
Looks like we have primarily hot drinkers this morning. I saw about 20 responses pop up. So it looks like most people are getting the hang of it. I see Sarah, thanks for the comment, reminded us that for some folks, the reaction symbol is the heart icon instead of the smiley face. So if you click on the heart and react, you'll get those options. Thanks for that, Sarah. Mine looks like that as well. So we might have a couple different versions of Zoom.
Yep. I tried to get a couple different versions for my screenshot, but I had limited version that I could sign into ahead of time. So thank you for sharing. All right, so I think we've got all of this. One last question, and this one is more for me. If it is your first time on a Conversations Over Coffee, give me a thumbs up. And if you have been here before, give me a heart. So it looks like we do have a few new first timers. I have 4 of those. And over 20 of the people here gave me a heart, so they have been here before. So welcome back to those people and welcome for the first time for those of you who are here. I am very excited about today's topic. Today we are going to be learning about the ALICE population. For those of you for whom ALICE is a new acronym, it stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. And at Pillars, we are clients making tough choices every day. These are clients who are working and they do have income, but they don't have enough income, enough room in their budget for all of their basic needs. So if they choose to buy that pricey prescription medicine for their kid, have less money for groceries that month. And if the first of the month is on a Monday and payday is until Friday, they might have to choose between paying the rent on time or having enough gas to get in their tank to get to work that week. These choices usually aren't about wants and luxuries, they're about the basic essentials. So, as with all choices, these tough ones have consequences. And those are the consequences that lead to increasing instability and sometimes play a role with why they come to us in need of our assistance, or to the many other community partners that we have on the screen as well. So after getting to know some of these clients during my time at Pillars, I am very excited that Josh and Megan from United Way agreed to join us this morning to help us understand the daily realities of living in a household that falls within the ALICE population. So we have Josh. Josh Lambrecht has been with United Way for 3 years and is currently the Director of Resource Development. Josh joined the United Research Advisory Committee for ALICE in 2022, where he provided input regarding local data ahead of the ALICE report released each spring. Josh is always looking for ways to inform people about the challenges in the ALICE population. So if you are in a group or know of another group or venue that would appreciate learning more about ALICE, reach out to him, let him know. he'd be happy to do a similar training with you as well. We also have Megan joining us. Megan Sherwood has been with United Way Fox Cities for 4 years and is the Associate Director of Community Engagement. Prior to working at United Way, Megan supported families, excuse me, families living in the Alice population through her work in adult education and out of school time programs for families, which allow parents to work and attend classes while their children were supported through safe and enriching education programs. Now, Megan supports Alice education through opportunities like this Alice presentation and simulation for corporate groups and community partners to help deepen the understanding and support for those living in the Alice population. So Megan and Josh, I'm going to turn things over to you. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. I'll stop sharing my screen so that you guys can start.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this coffee and conversations this morning. We're very excited to be here to talk about the Alice population and give kind of a little bit of a status update of where the Alice population is at right now in our community here, as well as have a actually, I'll just jump to the next slide because I have my agenda right on the next slide. So give you a little bit of an overview of who Alice is and kind of paint that picture for y'all. We do have an activity that we're going to be going through to kind of give some perspective on some of those difficult choices that Stephanie was mentioning. Some of the folks in this community need to make on a daily basis. And so we're going to go through that activity. Megan's going to lead you through that. And then there's going to be an opportunity to provide feedback, share your learnings or things that you found interesting throughout the conversation as well. With that said, I would encourage you to enter questions into the chat. I believe that some of the Pillars folks might keep an eye on that for us. And if there are questions that come up during the course of the presentation, please go ahead, or we can interrupt and we want to answer those questions as we go along. Stephanie also mentioned in my introduction that each spring this Alice data is released. So the schedule this year for the most up-to-date Alice data is going to be May 12th. There will be a release of the new report both for Wisconsin and across the country. Because I'm a member of the Regional Advisory Committee, the information that you will see in this presentation actually is pulled from the most up-to-date data as well. So I got a little bit of a preview and I thought, hey, why not include it in, because we got it and we should make sure that y'all know what the status is right now. To get us started though, we are here from United Way Fox Cities and wanted to just remind y'all or introduce some of you that might be new to United Way that we've been in our community for over 75 years, really aiming to bring diverse people together to build a stronger, more caring community for everyone. And when we talk about the Fox Cities, our service area is Outagamie, Calumet, and Winnebago counties. And so the dollars raised here, are invested here into those communities through United Way in wonderful partner organizations and programs like Pillars on an annual basis. And what we do really is very complex, but this is a quick kind of flow chart of how we approach the work of United Way and of understanding our community needs. And so really at its heart, United Way's goal is to bring people together to better understand what those community needs are. So bringing people together is that first blue bubble, listening to those community needs, collaborating and identifying what not only are the challenges, right? What might be the gaps, but what are the assets? What are the strengths and how can we leverage those resources we already have in our community to really make them the best impact and the best results possible? To make sure that we can do that work, that investing those resources, the dollars, the time into the right solutions, we go onto the community and we talk about those challenges through things like this Alice presentation, as well as through other data factors and things that we look at, which I will show you in just a moment. In addition, once we have gone to the community, we, ask them for an opportunity or provide them an opportunity to invest in the community in which we live, right? So all of those dollars raised here in the Fox Cities, they're invested here into the Fox Cities. And that's what we really strive to do in that orange bubble, right? We're investing in the programs that work, that have the data and or the models, which are are making a difference and making an impact. Because at the end of the day, that's really our goal, is to make people's lives better. And through our programs, we've been able to touch 1 in 3 folks across the Fox Cities to really help them provide an opportunity to thrive in the community. I did mention a little bit about we're a data-based organization, and so there are a couple key areas that we collect and utilize data, or data sets that we pull in. 2 of them that I'd like to mention are the United for ALICE information. So that's what we're going to be covering today, to really look at what is the temperature of our population and the folks in our community who are not only maybe in that most extreme situations of poverty, but who are on that bubble, who are having to make those difficult decisions between medication and groceries, gas and paying rent, all of those pieces. And ideally, when those folks are struggling, we want them to know about and utilize our 211 dialing code. That dialing code is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and is available for anyone at any time. A real person will answer and will listen to what the challenges are going to ask some questions that are going to help to understand, is this your only challenge? Or, do you have a plan for paying rent or for buying groceries this month? So that 211 team talks them through those pieces so that we can connect them directly to resources available in their community. And each one of those calls is data that we then collect to be able to understand what are our most pressing needs in our community. I'm going to ask for a comment here in the comment box. If anybody was to guess what the #1 reason why folks call our 211 is, and it is very appropriate, I would say, for our conversation today and for the folks here on the call, what would be that #1 concern or need be for the 211 that we're hearing? So 3 of the first 4 knocked it right head on, right? So housing is so complex and challenging. We know that there's more need out there than what we have available, both in housing supply, affordable housing, and unfortunately, the fantastic work Pillars does. We know that there are people that are on a wait list trying to get services and supports, right? And so 211 is not a silver bullet, but it is a way for us to keep a temperature gauge on the immediate needs right now, or in the last couple months, couple weeks, years, right? We can look at data in a couple different ways to see that and make some decisions. So with that, I'm going to shift gears and kind of start talking about that ALICE a little bit more. And as Stephanie introduced, ALICE is an acronym, stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. During the COVID pandemic, excuse me, during COVID pandemic, many of these workers were identified as essential, right? They were your bus drivers, your grocery store checkout folks, your youth development and or childcare specialists. They might be working in a warehouse. They're folks that were essential and are essential to our economy. However, due to a variety of factors, they're not making enough to be able to support themselves. They're not making enough to afford those basic needs that they need on a daily basis because of a variety of factors. So there are going to be a couple terms that we will use during during my presentation here, kind of as we talk through this. The first is a household survival budget. So when we talk about a household survival budget, that's really the bare cost of necessities. So it has the different categories there. But for many, we hear about things like the Consumer Price Index as a benchmark for how much things cost. The problem is that Consumer Price Index includes a whole bunch of luxury goods, travel, other things that really, for our ALICE population, those aren't the basic needs that they need to afford on a regular basis. And so through the ALICE program here, there's been a household survival budget, which has been developed to really understand what are those critical needs and how much of a budget, if we're assuming all the best case scenarios, 30% of income, those types of things, what does that budget look like for those folks who are in that population? Now, the other terminology we're going to use is going to be ALICE threshold, and so that's going to be the average income household to afford those basic necessities defined by that household survival budget. Now, when we talk about below the ALICE threshold, that's going to include two populations, right? It's going to include those ALICE folks who are maybe above the poverty line, but below what that household survival budget really needs to be, as well as those folks that are in the poverty level threshold. And since we have a bunch of smart people, I'd love another chat feature here. If you could guess for me, as of the 2024 U.S. poverty government guidelines, for a family of four, what's the poverty line? So how much does a family of four need to make? Or what's that threshold for a family of four to be considered poverty for our federal government? Just throw in a number, take a look here. We got some folks that work in the industry here, I think. So seeing some 30s, between 30, 35, that sort of piece. And as of, the 2024 guidelines, here's what our family of fours considered poverty would be. So that'd be 31,200. So spot on for anybody in that 30 to 35. And for our local communities, the way that looks is in Calumet County, 6% of our population is in this poverty threshold, 7% Outagamie, 10% Winnebago. And as a state, the Wisconsin threshold is about 11%. And so how that looks then when we think about the ALICE threshold or below that ALICE threshold, we can see that, Calumet, Outagamie, and Winnebago's poverty is in the red pie piece here. And then the ALICE threshold is that yellow pie piece. So for Calumet County, 27% of folks are under the ALICE threshold. 29% of folks in Outagamie and 39% in Winnebago County, which is having some of the larger challenges of our three counties that we are supporting overall. We also know that there's some common demographic consistency over the last several years that we've seen with regards to who it is that are having what are the demographics of folks that are having the highest percentage of hardship versus those who are having some of the lesser challenges or not as high of percentage of hardship. And so when we think about the families that are struggling, those single female households with children are the number one most likely highest percentage of households who are in that ALICE threshold or below. Households with folks under that 25 years of age and are the Black households or Black households that we have in our communities as well are struggling at the highest rates. With regards to lowest rates of hardships, married families with children, Asian households and households between those prime working ages of 25 to 65 tend to have a lower percentage overall of ALICE threshold. So we've talked a lot about ALICE and the thresholds, and this is going to be an introduction into that survival budget and the calculator that we have. So as you can see on the left-hand side, and this tool is available. I believe I'm going to send Stephanie a link after this so that you can go and play with these tools as well. And this right here has three counties, Calumet, Winnebago, and Outagamie in it. And we're defining it based upon 2 adults and 2 school-age children. And this is going to be consistent with the simulation that we're going to see later on today. So I wanted to give you a sense of, for the Thompson family that we're going to learn about in a little bit, what is their ALICE family, or what does their budget look like? And so as we look at this, this is what a breakdown would be of a family as of 2023 for the costs that they would have associated. So you can see things like housing, childcare, food, transportation, health, technology, and then of course taxes, which nobody gets to get away from. And so the first question that I have is, when you think about a housing expense of $1,000 and $1,065 is really what the budget is able to accommodate. Thinking about our community and where you might be able to find that type of rental property or a house that you might be able to afford for that cost. And the idea is that if you can't find something in that $1,065 for housing, somewhere else in this budget is going to be where those dollars are coming from, right? Because for a family of 4 with 2 school-age children to be at that budget the ALICE threshold, we're talking about an annual total income of about $67,536 or an hourly wage of $33.77. And the challenge with this, right, is as we look at this, there's a lot of jobs out there, but they're not always paying at the rates in which is going to allow for a single job to afford the most basic needs. And I really love this photo here, and not for positive reasons. I just like it because it is a reflective of the fact that as the parents are struggling with some of these difficult choices and decisions, looking at bills and trying to understand how to make payments, the kids might not necessarily know exactly what is happening, but they sense something's going on and they can feel that stress and those challenges, right? And so when we think about all those types of jobs, of the top and most common jobs that are out there, so the parameters for this are slightly different, but the job price, the amount that they're making hourly isn't changed. So as you look, these are some of the top occupations, and you'll see that really there are only a couple of them that are getting close to meeting that threshold for the ALICE to be able to afford those basic needs. Things like maintenance and repair workers, administrative assistants are pathways to closer to being able to fulfill those ALICE needs. But a lot of the jobs out there are making $20 or less an hour for the work that they're doing. So when we think about that, there's a survival budget, which I've introduced, but then we need to think about, like, how can we move somebody from this ALICE threshold into a much more stable atmosphere, or much more a stability budget, if you will, so that on a regular basis, they're able to afford maybe a slightly nicer, maybe a larger place with multiple bedrooms, so that kids can have space that is maybe unique to them or their space. Even if they are sharing a bedroom, they at least have a separate room that is theirs. The type of childcare you can afford is different, as is the type of food. The other thing that I would really highlight when we talk about that stability budget is if you look at that miscellaneous and that savings, right? When we talk about folks that are in the ALICE population, one unforeseen challenge is going to significantly change their budget. And so if you don't have the ability to have a small savings or plan for retirement or think for the future, you're always really in that mode of, how am I getting through today and how do I best get through tomorrow? And the future is the future, and I can't worry about that because I really need to focus on what's happening today. And so as we start thinking about moving people into that stability mindset or instability budget, there are some really big hurdles, because if you look at that hourly wage and the annual wage necessary to be able to afford that stability budget, we're talking almost $26, $25 more an hour an individual family needs to figure out how to make to move from that ALICE up into that stability budget. And then the next challenge is, think about the folks that are in that poverty that are making $31,200. How much we would need to, how big of a shift that is overall for them. So just to kind of give a visual to this, right? If we think of folks that are on that household survival budget, it's really like the slackliner or the tightrope walker, right? And for somebody who is really experienced at being a tightrope walker, they make it look easy. They are out there and you might not even know that they're struggling, that there's something else going on. But let's say that there's a wind that happens there's a chance that they might fall off. And so when we think about that stability budget, that wind might come, it might shake your bridge, but you at least have some handholds. Even though it's a rope bridge, you're going to have some handholds to help you get back up. So to give you a little bit more of an example of this, I'm going to pass it over to Megan. I think I maybe took slightly more time than I was intending, but pass it over to Megan so that she can lead you through the simulation.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Okay, just getting this pulled up, hoping that everyone is seeing the screen here. Great. So as we talked about, our ALICE population, as we're looking at our simulation here, really intended to provide some perspective. I would even say a little empathy. Obviously, simulation here, not intended to be a game, as these are real life experiences and challenges that people face every day, whether you're in the ALICE population, whether you are living below the federal poverty level or just living paycheck to paycheck, right? We make tough choices every day. And these are real life experiences. So really just intended to give some perspective of choices that individuals around us that we might not, think of, or, the person sitting next to you at work. These are real life experiences that people around us are making here. We will be going through a 14-day span, so one pay period. And we'll be making some choices. Some days, as we had practiced, we will be getting to make some choices because in life, we do get to make choices. And some days we're just along for the ride, unfortunately. So some days things just happen, and that is how life goes. So we will, just see kind of what the day brings as the day comes for us. Some of you may have participated in some of our ALICE simulations in the past, where we've done some budgeting with Smarties. So kind of similar to that. So if you've done that experience before, you might be kind of familiar with that. This is just kind of some updated and refreshed simulation, but might be an experience that you've had with us in the past. And that is still something that we offer. So as Josh had mentioned, if this information is something that you're looking to bring back to your workplace or any groups that you would love to share with, please just let us know. But we will go ahead and get started with our simulation here. Okay, so this is our family, the Thompson family. Joe and Jennifer Thompson are like so many parents living in our community. They work hard, they love their kids, and because of life's challenges, sometimes they have a hard time making ends meet. Joe is a warehouse worker who makes $16 per hour, and Jennifer works as a food service aide in a long-term care facility and makes $15 per hour. So they are making $31 per hour together. They have two children, Carissa, who is 9, and Trent, who is 7. So both school-age children there. And they also have a dog, Buddy, who you can see here in their lovely family picture. So as we are going through the simulation, just to give a little orientation here, as you can see on the screen, we will be going through the days. We'll have our little piggy bank to take a look at what our budget is. As those who are living in the ALICE population, those of us who are very mindful of our budgets, oftentimes are looking at that multiple times a day, throughout the pay period, being really mindful of that to make sure that we aren't having any slip ups or having there's not a lot of room for error. So making sure that, really staying within that budget. So we have that right on the screen here to make sure we're staying within our budget. And we also have a stress meter here because we know that staying within budget also can cause stress and can also cause happiness. So if we have a great day, right, that can relieve some stress. If we have good things that happen, it's not always bad days, right? We have good days too. So our stress meter will change as our 14 days go along as well. So just to give a little kind of orientation through the page here as you're looking at it. So as we're starting our 14-day period, day 1, we're getting paid. So that's a good way to start. We get paid, but unfortunately, we have to pay rent. So we are paying rent for our 3-bedroom home, which thankfully is close to school. So that helps with some transportation. But that rent is $1,100 per month. And we just got paid, and that was $1,730. So we will pay that rent because we need to pay that. So we have $630 left here after paying that rent. So as we had talked about, as Josh mentioned, High housing costs have a really, really big impact on our Alice families, on all of our families. For many individuals, housing costs can be more than 50% of their total income. You know, a lot of rentals look for that to be 30% of your income or things like that. And oftentimes that's really unrealistic. A lot of times that's closer to that 50%. So while less expensive housing is sometimes available, it's often not located near school or work, and that can increase other costs in other places. So it's not always necessarily about, you know, just looking at that budget item. It's about the, you know, total of where that is in relation to school or work as well. So we're on day 2. We have, you know, our $630 there. It's time to go to the grocery store. The fridge is empty, the pantry is empty. We need to do some grocery shopping. This is where we get to make some choices. So what type of grocery shopping would we like to do? Do we want to have a small trip for $100, knowing that we might have to go back and go again? Or do we want to try to get everything done and go for a larger trip? So if you think a small trip, you can react with a heart, or a larger trip for 180, you can do a thumbs up. And we'll give it looks like lots of hearts so far. Okay, I'm going to go with
Say the hearts outweigh it.
Yes. Okay, so we went with that smaller trip there. We know that, you know, grocery shopping is really difficult when you're running low on money. Oftentimes, you know, you're dropping healthier items such as fruits and vegetables, high quality proteins and whole grains, in order to buy other things. You know, you might buy less nourishing, highly processed food items, just so that you can make it through the week. So, you know, retail food prices are also going up. We have the statistic in here, obviously from 2022, as data and new numbers are coming out, we know obviously food prices are only continuing to increase. So that is just causing even more strain on our Alice population with those rising food costs. Okay, day 3. It's time to pay some bills. Unfortunately, another choice that we don't get to make. We unfortunately have to pay those bills, our gas, electricity, and cell phone. We want to keep all those things on. We have the money to pay those, and we know that it's important to do so. So we're going to go ahead and pay those bills. You know, oftentimes we get asked about cell phones. You know, I think a lot of people think that maybe it isn't as important to have a cell phone for people to have those. But we know that connection is really important for everyone, especially individuals who, you know, are living within our Alice population. It's important to stay connected. They can be expensive, but they're really vital to connect with others, whether that's through phone calls or the internet. It's really the primary method that most people use to stay connected. So, you know, we know that that's an important part of people's budgets to have those cell phones. Oftentimes can also be required for schoolwork or, you know, things like that. So we know that that's important, so we keep that in our budget here. And because of that, because we have our phone, we've got some good news here from Jennifer's brother. He's calling to say that he's going to come for a visit soon, which is great news. The family is very excited about that. So having a supportive family and friends helps to play a big role into our mental health and well-being. And that connection, social connectedness, is so important and can reduce risk of many significant health problems, including depression, high blood pressure, and unhealthy BMI. So we want to make sure that we're staying connected and can see Jennifer's brother. So we're glad to hear that good news. And like we said before, we have good days too, right? It's often a myth that individuals living in the Alice population or those living below the federal poverty level, all days are bad, right? And that isn't true. You know, we have good days too, and not every day is a bad day. Okay, we are on day 5. We had a great day, but now we did have a bad day. The next day we had something come up. So grandma just called. She's sick with the flu, and unfortunately she can't watch the children for the next week because they're school age. She primarily watches them after work. So one of the Thompsons would need to miss work or would need to find childcare. So this is where we get to make a choice. We can either ask a friend to help us out, and we would need to give them a little money to help us during that time. So that would be $100 there, or would need to miss out on some work, stay home from work for $280. So you can react with either the heart or the thumbs up based on what you pick. I'm seeing resounding hearts so far. Okay. We will go ahead and ask a friend for help, knowing that that has the least impact on, or the lower impact on our budget there. Even though we have school-age children, the Thompsons have school-age children, we still need childcare, right? After school programming, childcare can be a challenge for any family, but it becomes even more challenging when you're trying to make ends meet. Many families can't afford traditional childcare options, and they often have to depend on, juggling between family and friends. And when that falls through, that can really throw things into chaos. And a recent report by Forward Analytics shows that childcare costs in Wisconsin average between 18 and 36% of a family's income. That is astounding. That is so much. So we know we could spend so much time talking about that, more time than we have today, talking about cost of childcare and how that affects families and their budgets. But even just thinking of for our school age families, that does play a really important part and a big impact there. Okay, it's the weekend. We want to, blow off some steam, have some time together as a family. Do we want to fill up the gas tank and take a little trip, or do we want to stay home and hang out together? Looks like our stress meter is getting a little high there. We have some money in our budget. What are we thinking? Should we get a tank of gas and get out of town for a little bit? Or should we stay home? So thumbs up for staying home, heart for getting a tank of gas. Looks like lots of thumbs up coming in. Okay. So we are going to choose to stay home. And we know that everyone, needs a little break from their everyday life. A day trip can seem like a good option, but, ultimately that choosing to fill up the tank can have budgetary implications that can cause stress in other ways. So you can still find ways to have some time as a family and have a little staycation maybe. Okay, so unfortunately, Trent woke up with a headache, a sore throat, and a low-grade fever. Do we want to take him to the doctor and see what's going on? Or are we thinking that maybe some over-the-counter medicines can help Trent? And heart if we think we should go to the doctor, or thumbs up for trying to ride it out with some Benadryl. Tylenol maybe. Okay, looks like most thumbs up there. We'll try some over-the-counter meds there and see if that can help break his fever and help Trent just feel better versus taking him to the doctor there. So we know that's a tough choice, right? Kids, pets, family members, we want everyone to be healthy. We want everyone to feel better. But even with insurance, the cost of deductibles, getting an appointment, getting into, urgent care, co-payments, the prescription costs, can force families to try and manage the symptoms instead of seeking care. In 2022, nearly 40% of Americans delayed or skipped medical care due to financial concerns. That is a large percentage of people who have, skipped care due to those costs. So we know those costs, continue to rise and just have those implications there. So don't worry. I think the Thompsons, they tried the over-the-counter and then continued to monitor his symptoms. So I think Kent has pulled through. The over-the-counter medicines worked. It was maybe just some allergies. So he was able to feel better. So we were able to get through it. Okay, we are on day 8, so we are about halfway through our 14 days here. Our stress is starting to get a little bit better because we're feeling a little less stressed. It's Jennifer and Joe's anniversary. Grandma said that she could come and babysit if we wanted to go out to dinner. Looks like we're still doing okay in our budget. Do we want to go out to dinner for, spend $40 to go out to dinner somewhere nice? Or do we want to just cook something nice at home? So thumbs up if you think we just want to cook something nice together at home, or heart if we want to go out to dinner. Okay, I did see a couple thumbs up and then I think they might have cleared out, and then I'm seeing some mixture of both hearts and thumbs up. That's a tough choice. Okay. I think that one was maybe even a tie. I think it was a good mix. So I think I'm going to go with what it seemed like had the most at one point, which was go out to dinner. I think we deserve a little, Joe and Jennifer deserve some time to go out to dinner. It's their anniversary. It's very exciting. Raising a family and living on a tight budget can cause so much stress on a relationship, and it's important to spend quality time together. So we want to give them that time to celebrate their anniversary. Okay, you're running low on food, and someone that you work with has told you about 211. Josh had mentioned 211. So we all know about 211 now, but now the Thompson family knows about 211. So they learned about 211, and 211 has then referred the Thompsons to a local food pantry that can help them get by until payday. So that has really helped them to be able to offset some of those costs in their budget related to food. So the Thompsons are so happy that someone told them about 211. We want to shout 211 from the rooftop. So 211 connects people to all sorts of services, including food, shelter, utility assistance, transportation, disaster recovery, and so much more. So really 211 is there for all of those health and human service related needs. Okay, day 10, we are getting there. We're almost payday. Can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It is Carissa's 10th birthday. She asked for a popular toy that many of her friends had or have. It's a little more than we hope to spend. Do we buy her the gift that she asked for, knowing that it's $75? Or do we buy her a smaller gift for $40? So thumbs up if you think smaller gift, heart if you think buy her the one she asked for. I'm seeing lots of thumbs up, so I think we'll go with the smaller gift. Okay, another really tough choice, right? All of these tough choices, but especially again, when it comes to our kids, we want what's best. Parents want what's best for their kids. It's stressful to not be able to afford the things that they want. You worry that they'll feel left out, especially when they come back to school, talk about their birthdays, maybe, talk about the things that they received by not having those same things that their friends, many of their friends. So that just has now added to our stress here. So our stress is really starting to raise. Our budget is still looking okay, but really stressful time for the Thompson family, even though we're doing okay budget-wise. So we've made it through that day. We have another normal day. We have no new costs or added stress. Carissa got an A on her spelling test. We're celebrating with a game night. So we've had a good day all around. So that is good. Okay. Unfortunately, we've put some items on credit cards. So we're now receiving a phone call that our credit card has a high balance and is accumulating some interest. So a creditor is calling. Do we want to make the minimum payment for $75, or do we want to avoid the call and just kick the can down the road on that one? So looks like hearts for making the minimum call and thumbs up for avoiding the call. Looks like most people are saying to make the minimum payment, which we see a lot when we do the simulation. We see a lot of people say to make the minimum payment. I think, knowing the repercussions that can bring down the line of, potentially going to collections, or what that can bring, making that minimum payment, or what that can bring for your credit score is really, really important. So we'll make the minimum payment. We're on day 12 of 14. Okay, so families that are trying to make ends meet often rely on credit cards to get by, and those high interest rates can quickly add up, making it hard to pay off the balance. In 2024, the average credit card debt in Wisconsin was approximately almost $5,000. While this is lower than many states, that's still a really significant burden, thinking of people carrying that high of a credit card debt. And just thinking of that minimum payment, if you're trying to keep that minimum payment, every month, when you look at like how long that takes to pay off, if you're paying that minimum payment, that's sometimes can be like 20 years or something like that. That can be so daunting for families. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's day 13 of 14. We're almost there. But unfortunately, Buddy isn't feeling well. He seems lethargic and he doesn't want to eat. The kids aren't sure if he might have gotten into something. Okay, do we take him to the vet, or do we wait and see? Thumbs up if we want to wait and see, or heart if we take him to the vet. I know it's so tough. Kids and pets, those are the two. Like when it's adults, we're like, oh, we're fine, we'll be okay, right? But yeah, we don't want to see those things happen to others. I'm seeing lots of a real good mix of both hearts and thumbs up, but I think I saw primarily mostly thumbs up. Knowing we're on the last, one of the last days of our budget, I'll go with the thumbs up that we saw there. So pets provide such valuable companionship and they help us lower stress, but keeping them healthy can be so expensive. So sometimes we need to balance money and stress just to, keep things in balance. So our stress right now, as we're nearing the end of this pay period, it's so high. So even though we have our pet help us reduce stress sometimes, they can really stress us out. And the average, cost for dog owners is around $1,500 a year. Those of us that have pets and dogs, especially, I think you're like, yeah, that all sounds about right. We know that those costs add up, and the companionship that they provide is invaluable, but they can add so much stress sometimes as well. So we will wait and see, hoping that Buddy is okay, that he can get through it, and we'll just keep an eye on him there. And we've made it to day 14. Okay, we made it. We still had money left in our account. Whew, we made it. We got paid, but that was really stressful. We made it living day by day. We had that budget. We had what was in our account, in our faces. We finished the game, and while Joe and Jennifer still need to get through the month, still need to get through the months to come, through life. Making hard choices every day and the impact that has on your health and the happiness of your family is so high. The Thompsons may be a fictional family, but again, this is everyday life for so many people across our community, and these are real life challenges that people face. Okay. So I know we wanted to reflect a little bit. I did have another slide just to talk a little bit about, just to kind of recap a little bit what Josh had mentioned before, and then I'll kind of bring it back to some of those discussion questions that we will share. I also know that it looks like we have some chat some comments in the chat as well, but again, just to bring it back, ALICE, which stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed, is a way for really defining our families, neighbors, and colleagues who work hard, earn above the federal poverty level, but not enough to be able to afford a basic household budget. And United Way then really works to help support the individuals and families in our community by investing in and supporting solutions, programs, initiatives that help support individuals living in those populations. So here are just some examples of how we do that and how we help support the lives of 1 in 3 individuals in our community here. So I will just pull back those reflection questions there. And, as we just think through, and if people want to put those, their experiences or their thoughts in the chat, what sort of emotions you had going through this scenario, right? Again, it's a scenario. It's there's times where it's easy to laugh off or think like, okay, that's just a scenario. But, if we were to put ourselves in the shoes of the Thompsons, what are some emotions that you felt kind of going through the scenario? Maybe even if you think of like, what's one word that you felt kind of going through that scenario? And I'm pulling up the chat here as we go. Sorry.
We have Lisa in the chat saying that the credit card decision caused her the most anxiety. I know me personally, I was feeling it with the kid questions, but then we got to the dog question and I'm like, ooh, that one was tough.
Yeah. Yes. The sick child and the sick dog. That's where it's the hardest, right? It's so easy to, like I said, when it's an adult, when it's us, it's very easy to just be like, we're fine. It's going to be okay. But when it's happening to someone else, like we don't want others to experience that. So,
Donna also put in there that she needed more details to make decisions. And I feel you, Donna. A lot of times I'm like, but I don't know, all like, what is the school sent home about all the germs going around? Is it just the flu or is it something more serious?
Yes.
Do I have to take her to the doctor now? Things like that.
Exactly.
One of the question number 4, right, is one that I like to reflect on. As we go through this, it's really easy to think people just didn't make the right decision along the way, right? They just chose wrong, and that's why they're in whatever situation or scenario that they are. But if you really reflect back on those decisions at every point, was there a right or wrong answer at any one of those, right? I think at the end of the day, people are making the decisions based upon the information that they have in that moment. And they're going to make the best decision that they can for themselves in that moment. And that decision might look different next week. It might look different next month. It might look different next year, depending on that situation. And so I really appreciate that, the details, getting more information would be helpful, but also understanding that sometimes you can't get a lot more information and you just have to make a decision in that moment for what's right now.
I think one of the emotions that popped up for me and you kind of encourage us, like that one word emotion and helpless really came to mind for me. Not always feeling like I did have a choice. I had to look at the cheaper option regardless of the consequences, knowing what it would mean to not have any money left in the budget for something else that popped up. So even if there was kind of a gut feeling right or wrong, I think some of us wanted the date night, some of us wanted the vacation, but for me it felt like I didn't have a choice every time.
Yeah, I really appreciate Sarah's comment too in the chat of like the power of community, right? Having family and whatever that looks like, right? Whether that's friends, neighbors, like whatever your family and community looks like, to have those people to help you and help support, like that's so powerful. If you need someone to like come over so you can go do something or, have a little respite, like that's amazing. And thinking about not having that, I think that's where that feels so lonely. And, you know, especially if you're making these choices alone. And Joe and Jennifer have each other, right? So doing the simulation for a single adult and making these choices, right? Like that's so much more difficult, you know, to be living this situation by yourself and having to make those choices for your children by yourself, you know, that's a whole different scenario, right? That many people have to face. And I think just, you know, yeah, giving that perspective too of, you know, it's helpful to have a partner to kind of tag in when you can. But many people have to do this alone, and that's really difficult. Working through the comments here.
Other questions, comments? I know we're coming up on
Yes.
8:30. As I would just like to thank you, Megan, for leading through the simulation there. I did want to just replug that, and I'll put my email in. I think Megan will probably put her email, or we might share it. I don't know, Stephanie, if you were planning to share our emails afterwards, but
I will make sure that the emails are in the follow-up.
perfect. So I would just say if anybody would like something like this for your organization, your communities, we are happy to always come out and talk about some of these pieces. Either a virtual or in person is always an option as well. And so, you know, here at United Way, we're a resource for the community, and we want to be helping to share this information so folks are just better aware of what are our challenges and ways that we are able to address some of those needs. So thank you all so much for participating, being here today, and being engaged in the conversation.
And just as a plug, I'm going to put out there, Megan and Josh were so absolutely easy to work with. So if you're on the fence about needing it, yeah, you need it. You need to work with these guys. They're just amazing.
Well, thank you.
All right, I will make sure to send out a follow-up email to everyone. It is 8:30, so I do want to respect everyone's time and ending. But I will put any follow-up information I have about events coming up at Pillars, the next conversation over coffee date, as well as some information from United Way so that you can reach out if you have more questions, and the slide deck that Josh shared at the beginning with all of the data that he shared.
Can I make one more plug? Because of how great your guys' conversations and coffee, and we wanted to also keep some conversations going, I want to plug that we are doing a Rise and Thrive. It's not at all similar to Coffee Over Conversation, which is it's going to be next Tuesday, April 29th. At the United Way offices, and we're going to be talking about the 211 annual report. So some of that data that we had discussed. So if anybody is interested and available, with the information that Stephanie sends out, you can reach out to Megan or I, and we can make sure that you get that information as well.
It's on our events page on our website too, if you're looking for more information, but would love to see you there also.
I've heard the 211 people share their data too, and it's also really